Good
Good morning.
morning.
Welcome to Free Daily Coaching. Shouts in the House Coaching here. Happy April Fool's Day, but today will be no joke. No pranks allowed. Um, this morning, Janice Summers, who is the CEO of Tres Spa and the owner at janicesummers.com, is going to share some insights that she had recently from some webinars and a live event she attended, a Facebook boot camp. She was also introduced to the CEO of Instagram. And didn't you also say the small business owner person at Facebook, Janice?
Yeah, the one of the people that's in the small business task team at Facebook was one of the presenters as well.
Okay, cool. So without
Yeah.
further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Janice, and she is going to share her insights with you. You know, Janice, when I came on to Facebook in July 25th of 2007,
Hmm.
before I even knew what marketing was, the person that influenced me on Facebook was named Mari Smith. She
Yeah.
At that time, she was the reigning queen of Facebook, and she knew all things Facebook. And I know that she's still around, and
Yes.
you've had a little bit of experience with her. So I'm going to turn this over to you. I'm going to mute myself out. I'll watch the chat for any questions, and you take it away.
Okay. Yeah. So first off, I apologize. I can't see the chat. So if you do have questions, then I'm gonna rely on Chris to go ahead and feel free to interrupt me. I'm gonna have to do this presentation a little extemporaneous. I had fascinating notes, all worked out, organized myself quite nicely. And I proceeded to lose the entire document where all my notes were nicely organized. So I have bits and scraps, and I do have some notes that I'll be looking over on a screen to kind of look at. It's been an interesting journey so far, and I've just got on the tip of the iceberg with it. And I don't know if you remember, Chris, a couple of months ago when we first talked, my goal for Trey Spa is definitely to move it into a more significant online presence. So to take traditional face to face and more traditional marketing approaches and digitize things. So I am a slow adopter to Facebook. So I've chosen Facebook as my key thing. There's a lot of social media channels out there and a lot of really good um, they have different benefits. And I think when you're choosing which social media channel to focus on, you kind of have to look at, a lot of different factors and pick the one that's right for you and your business. So I chose Facebook, and I've been very fortunate to attend a couple of seminars, or a seminar and a couple of webinars with some really interesting high-powered speakers. And Mari Smith was on one of the webinars that I attended. And so I think I'll probably start with her. I also have Adam Reeder was one of them. There's a couple of people. Ciara from Facebook, she heads up the small medium business unit. I also had a chance to meet and listen to Marnie Levine, who's the CEO of Instagram. So they all have some really interesting factors. But I'm going to start with one of the things when I first heard Mari Smith, she had some great statistics. And I like statistics. Numbers are pretty interesting to me. And if you're thinking about a social media and significance of a social media channel, I think Facebook has some compelling statistics that were actually echoed from every person that I heard in the live events as well as on the online. And there's about 1.6 billion active users on Facebook worldwide. So that's a pretty impressive amount of people. Now, of those 1.6 billion, there's about 50 million small to medium businesses using Facebook for their businesses, and only 3 million advertisers. So that kind of tells you that there's still a lot of room for visibility, because out of 50 million, only 3 million are using the advertising power in Facebook. So let's see, 90% access Facebook via mobile. So that was kind of interesting to learn. And the other thing is, on average, users will check Facebook 14 times a day. It's probably why there's so much more of a percentage on mobile, because people are checking their Facebook really quick while at work or on the go or standing in line at checkout like I do. Let's see. Okay, so those were some of the interesting statistics. And I'm trying to thumb through notes. Oh, and there's about 400 million on Instagram. So for Mari emphasized things on visual and focusing on visual content, because visual will get you more attention more rapidly. And that our brains identify images in about 13 milliseconds. That's why it makes it so impactful to use images along with text. Now, if you're using images and language on top of it, the recommendation is to use only 20% of the image space for text. So I don't always do this. I don't always follow this. And actually, I plan on experimenting with this to see if 20%, if that makes a difference in the amount that people share, or the amount that it gets views or attention or likes. But Mari's recommendation was that you use 20% for text. She talked about Facebook Live. Let's see, I'm just trying to get to the highlights. Another thing she talked about is frequency, on how often should you post on Facebook. And it's really kind of interesting, because along this whole journey for me in Facebook started with, how do I run an ad? Because I've never run an ad on Facebook. So that's what started me to do a lot of investigation and a lot of learning, so that I could use if I'm going to run an ad, it costs money. And that's okay to use marketing, to use marketing dollars to build your business is okay, but you want to use it wisely, because you want to maximize the return on that investment. Marketing is an investment, but it's one that pays off if you do it right. So I'm one of those people. I like to research, and I like to really understand things. So that led me on this path. And I was interested to find out that the frequency recommendation. So one of the things that they were saying, and this was geared towards more product and service-based businesses, not towards professional marketers. And I think that there is a difference between the two in some respects. And for the product business, their recommendation was to post less frequently. But again, everybody hands down is saying focus on content. Content is key. Even in SEO, they're saying content, rich content that is legitimate for your product or service. And that's the key thing for gaining consumer loyalty and helping people with the whole buying decision, because TraceBuy is a product-based business. So they were saying, if you're posting a couple of times a week, that's okay, as long as you're posting really rich content. Of course, you could post more than that. And I hang out with a bunch of professional marketers, so of course I post more frequently. Let's see, what else did they say about that? Yeah, because Mari was saying that if you post less frequently, but you have richer content, your engagement and your reach will increase. Some things vary. She brought up a shoe company that posts quite frequently and they're successful. So it depends really on each page. So another thing that she was recommending and Mari was talking about was, when do you post? What time of day do you post? And her recommendation was to post outside of business hours. I know I am guilty of this. I have a tendency to post during business hours. But she suggested posting like on Sundays, because Sundays is the number one day for Facebook traffic. Saturdays and evenings. She said 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. in most time zones. Those are the highest traffic for Facebook in general. Another good thing that she pointed out, which is one that I've heard from all marketers, is include questions in your post. So if you have an image and you have a paragraph of content that you're posting, ask a question to allow readers to engage with you and your posts. The key thing for Facebook is, sure, they like to see volume, but they like to see engagement. That's also the power of syndication groups, is the engagement. That's the key to those. So you have to post things that allow people to engage with you, and do that on a regular basis. And feel free to state, your opinion and your thoughts on something. So even if you're posting something that somebody else had or somebody else said, share your personal opinion about why you're posting that, why you think it's relevant, or a key factor you want people to hone in on, or why you thought they would be interested. So I'll post things that are eco-conscious because I'm a very green company. But I'll tell people, like, I've read an article, and I'll tell them the point in the article that I thought was really relevant for the eco-conscious consumer, for example. So image posts get 179% more interactions than the average Facebook post. And posts that are 150 to 200 characters post best. And link to long form content. She definitely said, link. So link to your blog post where you can really go in depth. So it's nice to have like a little entice or a little brief statement that links back to something that's in depth. So if they want to read more, or if they have time to read more or watch more, then they can go someplace to do it. But in their news feed, it can go pretty quick. So those are some of the highlights of Mari, and she is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm amazed, because I've commented on Mari's things, and Chris, you may have experienced this. I'm amazed at her level of interaction. I mean, she's fast. She actually responded to something that I posted about her, and it was like lickety split. So I was very impressed that she's on top of things. So that was Mari. And now I'm going to kind of cut over. I know this is choppy, and again, I apologize. I had this all nice and smooth. But so another gentleman came on, Adam, who is from a marketing company. And he talked about Facebook and some common misconceptions, which I thought were interesting. The first one he said is that your fans are customers. That's not always the case. Fans don't always equal customers. And that people care. So there's a thing about hashtags, and in certain communities, hashtags are key and critical. And in other communities, they really don't care about hashtags because nothing's searched really on it. That's not how that medium works. So he was kind of being comical about, people don't care about your hashtags in Facebook. They do in other social media places. So, and he said you kind of have to, as a business owner, you have to let go of Facebook is free. He was encouraging that you look at Facebook not as a free tool, but as something that you're willing to invest. And sometimes that means dollars, but definitely invest in the time. So his focus, again, coming from a marketing firm, is to focus on that intersection. And he talked about the great content is found in the intersection between the brand and the audience interest. So I've got a product or a service, and there's an audience. So that intersection where they come together is really where you need to focus what your content is. So it's a different way of looking at things. And great content is both an art and a science. But it all kind of dates back to Aristotle and rhetoric, which I found fascinating because it's all argumentation, and that's all anything really is, negotiation, argumentation. So in Aristotle's rhetoric, which goes back to 350 BC, is the information credible and worthy? Is it appealing to me, the consumer or the reader? Because if I'm reading, I'm the consumer of your content. And does it make sense? Does it have a certain logic to it? So those are the things you want to make sure you focus on in creating your content. He also talked about a book. Hang on. Jonah, I can't read his last name, but the book is called Contagious. And that book is about making your content contagious. What makes a post suddenly take off and just go viral? So he highly recommended reading that book, and I would too. And I'm going to kind of skip through this because I'm going to let you go get that book. So some of the other things he talked about was giving your content the best chance, right? Because we all know in social media, they're all like news feeds. So they come and they go, and it scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. So pick your brand proposition, know what your brand is about or what you are about, right? Because if you're in marketing, you are the brand. So what are you about? What are your ideal audience? What are they interested in? And pick the right time and the right place. So this is, sometimes we have different mediums that we use and different channels that we use. So some things might play better on other channels. So pick the right place and the right content for the right audience, and pick the right time. So it goes again to timing. And I know that somebody else, and I can't remember if it was Adam, if it was Mari, who had said, or maybe it was Sierra from Facebook, who said post twice a day. Some places they're saying, post like a gazillion times. Like some mediums are more tolerant of it, like Twitter. But on Facebook, the recommendation was, maybe post twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening.
Okay, but
so you're catching.
Janice, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you for just 1 second and ask a question. Were they basically talking about your fan pages?
Yes. Okay. So Ciara, when I was at the business summit for small business owners, and that was in San Francisco, Ciara from Facebook came, and it was really cute because that was the first thing she covered. Profiles are people, pages are business. So when I'm talking about all of these people and their advice and recommendation, it's about building your business. So it's all about your fan page, what we would call your fan page. That's your business page.
Cool.
Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. They actually recommended not putting too much of your business on your profile because that's about you as a person. So but we all have things that bleed out. I've got a lot of business people that are on they're friends of mine too. It's when you're in a small business or a micro business, that happens. We kind of bleed over. Okay. So back to Adam. And okay, so I'm just going to he had a nice little recap. So he talked about Facebook as an advertising platform. So that's where he was saying, don't think of it as a free, like, in our profile page, we think of it as free, but think about it, your fan page as an advertising platform, right? Creating content that's true to your brand and interesting for your audience. So again, it goes back to content and how important rich content is. And share your content where and when your audience is ready to receive it or when they're online. So I think that's why it might have been Sierra that was saying twice a day. I know that one of them was saying post twice a day because your audience may vary on the time of day that they're online, and we have different time zones. So, and blend the content that you're doing. This is also very interesting, and I've heard this from other uh, business marketers. Is that blend the type of content between what's planned, what's anticipated, and what's reactive. So the difference is planned is like launching a new product, which I'm really bad about doing a planned campaign with a big, I'm launching something, here it comes, oh, hey, here it is. That's something that's planned, and you actually do a calendar and you work out what medium you're going to use or mediums and what content you're going to release at each stage. Then there is anticipated. So that's when you think that someone's going to have a question or it's something you commonly hear. It's what we would have on our product businesses as a FAQ. So facts about products, right? So that's an anticipated, which is also really interesting because I'm reshaping how I do my FAQs as a result of that. Everything's changed for me. It's really been fascinating. Um, then the other thing is reactive. So reactive is that audience engagement when you get them responding and react back to them. One of the things I really like, because I'm fortunate to be in a syndication group, so that's also taught me a lot. And it's really key when people respond that you respond back to them, right? Sometimes they'll even post a question, but respond back, even if it's just to acknowledge, just hit that like button to say, hey, I saw that you acknowledged my post. It's a courtesy thing. So they were talking about that. And I'm in other business groups where they don't do that. And it's fascinating because they're really missing out. Okay. So I'm going to cut over to the live event, which was held in San Francisco. How much time have I got? Okay. Are there any other questions right now?
Not so far. I'm watching.
Okay. 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 So, great. Okay. So now I went to the live event, and that was focused on small to medium businesses. And it was a women's business building event, which was interesting and fun because I guess last month was Women's Business Month. Who knew? So, Ciara, there were a couple of speakers, and Ciara was the representative from Facebook. And some of the key things that she talked about was keeping your text short, sweet, and simple. Again, it's what Mari was saying. Keep your content to 100 to 200. Kind of almost a little bit longer than a tweet. I'm guilty. Sometimes I write a paragraph, but that's okay. It's Facebook. I can. It's got the space. Use photos to help emphasize a message. So there videos. So this was interesting. She talked about videos on Facebook, and there are 100 million hours of video being played or shared on Facebook. The key on videos is get the attention in the first 3 seconds. Capture their imagination or capture their attention. In other words, we would say this is a teaser. Give them the teaser or the gotcha, or this is what I'm going to talk about, or this is why you need to listen, and capture them in the first 3 seconds so that they'll stay engaged for the full amount of time. They also talked about Messenger, and I was reading something else from another marketing professional about the growing trend in using online platforms for businesses to build and develop their business. And they were talking about the importance of messaging and how those are going to grow in more popularity. And it's kind of an untapped thing. And this is the thing I think with Snapchat too, is it's instant, it's quick, and it's gone. So there's 800 million users of Messenger, I think is what she was saying. The nice thing about it is content is quick, it's conversational, it's time sensitive information, and you can respond in a timely manner. One example somebody had used on another thing that I was reading was somebody's looking you they post a message. I desperately need a prom dress. Well, if you sell prom dresses, you could say, "Hey, here's a prom dress and here's how to buy it." And there you go, you're done. So you've met the consumer says, "I need, I want," and you're there to deliver. So that's the growing trend in the messenger. And how that translates for you and your business, I don't know. Uh, but it's something to keep your eye on. So let's see. Oh, another key thing that she had talked about, which is true, because we get into this content consummation overload. We can only get 100 to 200 pieces of content a day, really. Um, So level of engagement is important. That's the likes, the comments, and the shares. So that's why they also were saying if you're posting less frequently, but your content is richer, um, and it gets more engagement, then that's better. Or maybe, you're posting frequently and your content engagement is okay because it's easy enough and approachable enough for people to comment or to share or to like. Okay. Um, And in content, just always remember who are you speaking to. So the thing that really got me fascinated, well, let me see. Okay, well, we're on to the thing that really got me fascinated with Facebook was targeting, as a business person and being able to target uh, who my audience is or who I'm going to advertise. And Facebook has a lot of excellent targeting. You can actually create target campaigns that are based on who have your consumers been. So, I mean, I have a long history of all these people. They're not necessarily my Facebook fans, but because I have their names and their emails, I can load this up into Facebook and they can create a just like these people type of target. And it's based on behaviors, which is really interesting because our behaviors are the key to what we will do, right? It's not necessarily the content, the likes and the shares, which is all great, but it's the people, these are people who have actually made a conscious decision and purchased. So people who are this or like this are more likely to purchase again. So that's what really got me fascinated about Facebook and the sophistication, which led me into a whole nother world. I completely abandoned my old website. I had to rebuild my website in a whole nother platform that allowed for mobile devices. It was scalable. It allowed for the targeting. The whole thing was based on targeting and being able to use the pixel tracking. And the pixel tracking is like little digital footprints in the sand. You can see where people come in, where they're coming from when they come into your website. You can see where they go in your website. And you can see where they've gone to when they leave your website. So all of these things, when you start really looking at analytics over time, these analytics help you improve, right? If you wrote a post about drinking water and it got a ton of traction and a ton of watch, and people really came and stayed the whole time, read the whole article, then you know that things like this are going to be important for your audience, right? As opposed to if you wrote a post about coffee grinds and exfoliation and nobody cared, well, you're probably not going to write about that again. You might be interested in as an individual or, as a person, but your audience isn't. So being able to track and pixel is really, really important so that it helps you serve them better. Because they might not necessarily feed back to you and say, hey, you know what? The story about coffee grinds, I really don't care. It was interesting. Nobody's going to take the time to tell you that. Their behaviors will. So being able to track behavior is key and critical. And that's one of the things that got me started off on the whole thing with Facebook, as the main target for me to really learn and understand. Plus, they have one of my favorite groups. And I'm gonna advance over to their notes. So Instagram, now owned by Facebook. They were also there. The COO of Instagram was there. And they have only 200,000 advertisers right now on Instagram. And the advertising is going to get better on Instagram. And it's really kind of clever the way they do it. And there's a direct connection with Facebook and Instagram. So things are going to get even better from a business perspective and a product perspective. The ability to advertise on Instagram is key. The other thing with Instagram is one of those quick and instants. And it's really easy for people to like. It's really easy to get a quick message out there. So that's why it's so popular and growing in popularity, and that will continue. Okay, I'm trying to see because we're running out of time. Sorry.
That's okay. Finish your notes.
Okay, well, the rest, I'm not quite sure how. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. So I'm going to circle back to Facebook. So there's a couple of different things to look at when you look at Facebook. And I'm on other business groups with product companies. And, I listen in on their chatter. And a lot of them have spent money in ads. Now, I haven't gone and looked at their ads, but I've heard a lot of people I've heard the thing. Some people say they're quite successful and a lot of people who say they aren't. So if you're planning on doing ads, then be very conscientious of how you do them. Boosting posts that are really popular, but those popular posts, the analytics inside of Facebook itself should help guide you on what's going to be important for your audience. Because what they're really attracted to and they're getting a lot of attention on, then if you do more things like that, then the chances are that you're going to get more engagement and you're going to build and generate more business, more revenue for your company down the road. It's not all about sales and being salesy. We're always in a sales mode, but we don't have to be salesy about it. And mix your content that you post, right? Some things are your personal opinion because you're a small business. It's okay. You can have an opinion about things and you should make a stand. You're a company, you're about something. Some things you're going to post are other people's information or other people's stuff. I do it all the time. And some things are going to be quick, like advertising, I do a lot of things that look more like a traditional ad, a quick picture that goes by. So I try to vary it amongst a lot of different things so that it's kind of like when you make a casserole and you have a lot of different things in the casserole and you put it together, then you watch the analytics and that analytic is going to tell you which things you should spend more time, invest more time in doing and develop strength in, right? So I'm again, I apologize. I had this all cleanly wrapped up with conclusions and everything else, but that's my gibberish from my notes.
You've given us a lot of information. I don't see any questions at this time. You guys, you got about one more second. But I was very, very fascinated with the numbers. And so are you getting ready to run your first ad?
So actually, for me personally, I think I'm going to focus more on boosting a post to increase audience because the audience size is important. I'm not quite ready to take the plunge on running an ad yet because I think, to me personally, if I'm going to run an ad, I'd rather have a larger audience because I don't have a large following yet, which is, again, my focus now on social media to try and build, because you have to build your fan base as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, everybody out there said that you gave a lot of good information and they thank you for it.
Thanks.
I really enjoyed it, and you guys, I think Mari Smith is worth you looking into and following. She puts out a lot of good
Yeah, you
information.
follow her. She's got a fan page, and definitely people should follow her.
All right, Janice, I really appreciate you taking time out of your morning to come and visit us on
Well,
Free
thanks for
Daily
having
Cooking. I really appreciate it. And you guys, will see you Monday. Bert will be back from seeing Gary Vaynerchuk. So I'm sure he'll have some stories for us. Um, if you're here, you probably already registered, but remember it's April the 1st and you've got to re-register for the month. And I hope everybody has a blessed and wonderful weekend. And we will see you Monday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And Janice, thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me.
And we will talk to you soon.